Today we'll be doing an introduction to CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, which describes the visual presentation of web pages and controls how HTML elements are displayed on a website. We'll be focusing on external CSS today. External CSS works by linking to an external file named style.css, and it separates content and styling, making it easier to maintain and manage styles across multiple pages compared to other CSS styles. So here's the HTML file from the last video. And as you can see here, we have a style.css file. This will be our style sheet that we'll be using. CSS works by separating the HTML files into different sections. So let's start by changing the body section. So as you can see here, we wrote body, so we'll start with that. So body will change just about everything that you see displayed here. CSS has a lot of different elements that you can use. So let's start off with the first one, background color. You can change the background color using its hex code like shown here, or you can type down a color that you want to do. So let's say blue or cornflower blue. So now when you run it, as you can see, the color of the background has now been changed to blue. Oh, and another important thing to know about syntax is whenever you want to end off a line, you need to end it off with a semicolon. Another element we can change is font family. So basically the type of font that we want to use. So let's say we want to use Arial for this one. The font can be changed to whatever you want. We can also change the color of the font. For this one, we'll just use the word color. Let's change it to white. And now the color's been changed. Now, an important thing that you can do in CSS is you can change based on sections. So let's say we only want to change the font color of the header. So for that, we can do header color, and let's say black. So as you can see, only the header's been changed, but everything else has been kept the same. Another way you can do this is by using the H1 or H2 that you've used before. So like here, this one's inside H1. So if we do H1, and let's say font size 50 pixels, only the size of the H1 text will be changed. Everything else will remain the same. So let's say 100. This works for stuff like tables and inputs as well, so let's try that. So as you can see, the font size, family, and color of the text hasn't changed inside the table. And here we do the same for the submit button as well. An important concept that we have to keep in mind is what the difference between margins, borders, and padding are. So here is where the content of your page will be. Surrounding your content is the padding. Outside of the padding is the border, and finally, after the border comes the margin. So let's see how we can use this in CSS. So to start off with, let's change the margin of the table. So the way you can change margins, paddings, and borders is you can use either pixels, centimeters, or percentages. But you have to be careful about how you use them. So let's start percentages. Let's go for 50%. When we run this and review it like this, as you can see, the table has been moved all the way to the center of the page. But if we were to do, let's say, 50 centimeters, it would be moved to a different location. You can also change what direction you want the margin or pattern to be added to. So as you can see here, there's a top, right, bottom, and left. So let's say we only want our table to be moved down and not towards the middle. Let's do margin top is 200 pixels. So when we do that, it would have been moved to the bottom without being moved left or right. We can also center elements in our HTML document. So what you can do is use margin auto. And when you use this, the element that you've chosen will be moved to the center horizontally. You should also note that this doesn't work vertically and it's only horizontally. If you want to move text, what you can do is text align. So text align center. So everything's now in the center. You could also do left and right. So now everything's aligned to the right. You can also change things like font weight using CSS. So let's say P for a paragraph. And let's say font weight. And let's set it to bold. So when we do this, all of the paragraph text is now bolder. Another thing we can do is pick a specific section and make the cursor change when it hovers over the section. So let's say when we want our cursor to hover over the table, we want it to become a pointer. We can also do this. So now when you run it, the cursor turns into a pointer. Something else we can do with elements that have borders, such as tables, is we can change the style of border. So we can do border, and not only can we do stuff like color, but we can change the thickness. So let's make it 5 pixels thick. And we can also change the border style. So let's say we want a dotted border. And let's say our border color will be black. And now when we run this, the border is much thicker and it's now dotted. Let's go back to the normal border for this example. Another thing we can do is change the border radius. So we can make the border less sharp and more round. So let's say border radius of 5 pixels. So as you can see, all the edges have been rounded out. To summarize everything we've learned today, we've learned that CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's a language to describe the visual presentation of web pages. We've also learned how to use style sheets and the different elements that it can change. We've also learned that external style sheets are used to separate content and styling, and they're easier to manage and maintain when compared with other CSS methods like inline or internal.